Welcome, friends from all over the world. This is another episode of the On.NET Live Show. We are thrilled to have all of you here with us this morning. If you're tuning in for the first time, what is this show all about? Well, our mission here is to empower all of you, our .NET friends, the community, to achieve more. I'm your host, Scott Addie, and I'm joined by co-hosts Maira Wenzel and Cam Soper. We also are joined by our very special guest and friend, Jonah Andersson. Jonah, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Yes, so glad to be here today. And I'm Jonah Andersson, and I'm delivering this session live from my home office here in Sweden. And yeah, let me introduce myself a bit. I did prepare for this. I am Jonah Andersson. I work as a senior Azure consultant at Solidify. By role, I am a lead of a cloud DevOps engineering team, and by heart, I am a .NET developer, and I'm the author of Learning Microsoft Azure. I am the founder and community leader of Azure User Group Sweden, and I'm an MVP for Azure. I teach Azure as an MCT, and I'm very passionate about the topic that I'm going to be sharing today. So that's me, the short version.
With that, why don't we just jump right into the topic, .NET development on Azure, and it sounds like the focus here will be the Azure Developer CLI or AZD.
Yes, that is correct. .NET and AZD as well. All right, I'll go ahead and jump in. So I want to start my talk. So I'm very happy for everyone to spend time with me. It's about afternoon here in my time. I just got off work, so my energy is very high right now after a long day at work, and I'm very excited to share with you the Azure Developer CLI with .NET, which is one of the topics that I'm interested to share. But before we start, I want to share about this one of the questions that I asked AI lately, especially the co-pilot. So I did ask AI about developer productivity and about team collaboration, because it is one of the things that I tackle every day as an IT consultant working with Azure, DevOps, and cloud development. So I asked AI a question: what are the common challenges that developers face when it comes to developer productivity and team collaboration today? And of course, I did ask our famous Microsoft Copilot AI tool that we use now for searching. So I am pretty impressed about how the AI or Copilot answered my question, because I definitely agree myself about the answers. And in division of two answers here, it says the developer productivity challenges are includes interruption of flow states, iteration speed, meaning slow inner loop. It takes time for a development task to go from coding to DevOps to deployment to different environments, because it needs to go through different teams like QA and testing and users that are gonna use it before it goes to production. But another answer of AI was about, like, aside from poor leadership and lack of unity of goals, one of the things that highlighted, or that I'm really curious or was interested to know more, was about this lack of collaborative infrastructure, meaning we lack the tools that are required to collaborate better and be more productive better. So interesting answer from AI, and which leads me to the topic of today, which I believe that with the help of Azure Developer CLI, or known as ACD, Microsoft Azure, and .NET, the power of .NET, we can be more productive as a developer, and we can collaborate better using this open source tool. So to those of you, I'm very beginner friendly with all my sessions because I'm inclusive. I want tech to be inclusive to everybody. So I want to start an introduction to those that haven't worked with Azure before and watching this live or recorded. So a typical, if you're a developer working with .NET and you are deploying your applications or hosting your application in Azure, this example architecture that I borrowed from Microsoft Learn is a good example of a typical web application. Here you do see that there is an identity using Microsoft Intra ID. You have the networking, Azure Key Vault for secret management. And then you have the app service plans, which serves as a logical container for our app service. And in that app service, we have our different environments which can be set up or configured with deployment slots. You have the databases, and you do have the monitoring. So that is a typical like simple infrastructure that you see on Azure when you're deploying web app. And then it is kind of like box in a logical container called resource group on Azure. So I want to share with you that regardless of what level of in development you are into right now in your career, it is very common. I mean, especially for me as a developer and based on my experience as an IT consultant, when you start a project for cloud migration, upgrade, or just like modernization, these things that you see on the screen right now, like planning, making a proof of concept project, the team who will work in the project, who is responsible for what, the technology stacks that's going to be used in the project, the tools, the development tools, the DevOps tools that are going to be used for the entire team. And then when you get into the technology stack, after deciding all the previous list, you also need to deep into and zoom into what front end technologies are we going to use, what back end languages are we going to do, implement security in our DevOps, what kind of CI/CD tools are we going to use? Is it GitHub? Is it Azure DevOps or other tools? Infrastructure as code has also alternative. It can be a Bicep or it could be Terraform, Cloud. I choose Azure since .NET is very close to Azure, but there are other cloud alternatives as well for everybody. And then there's also testing and automation to think about, which is also very important. But if you're a developer, just like getting into the project first time, if you are entering into helping out the project for an existing source code, you will notice that it takes time to get onboarded. You have different source code everywhere. It can be a source code project for backend, one source code for a repository for front end, and they can be from different source control. And then the tools for project management could be different, and the CI/CD pipelines could be different. And it's something that I personally can relate because that's how my project is like at my client. We don't have a common shared tool. That's why I myself advocates tools that allow more collaboration and developer flow productivity. So, as I said, developer productivity matters to us. Our time is valuable. You're coding or not, everything that we do within IT and building things, it's really important. And then there's this problem of distractions. So we can distract ourselves. Like if you're like spending too much time on the mobile phone, you can be distracted. But while you're working, trying to get your flow, you can get many distractions such as like getting a team's messages and a colleague that might need a help while you are in the middle of fixing a bug and things like that. So a good example of a distraction in the entire development process is like in real life, like critical bugs. Like there's a bug that needs to be fixed in production, but developer fixed it, but the the QA needs to make sure it's in good quality. So there's always this back and forth type of communication, which is normal in a typical project. And focusing back to developer productivity, there's actually a good article or research by Microsoft Research about this. I was interested when I first encountered this or read about it. It's called SPACE, the Framework for Developer Productivity, which describes S for satisfaction, performance, activity, communication, and collaboration, and how efficient are we and productive are we in our flow when we do our development. So this is where Azure Developer CLI comes in, because I believe in my when I first touched into it and heard about it, I was really impressed, even if it was still in preview like months ago or last year. I started looking into it and did a hands-on. And what I like about it is that it's open source. It is polyglot, meaning it supports 80 languages that is in any kind of projects. It supports .NET, of course, and other programming languages that we know. Developer centric, meaning uh, it is focused on the development flow, not developer centric that we are like centric ourselves as a developer, but it's more focused from the code to building of that code to deployment of the infrastructure to DevOps, and also from updating the code, and of course, team collaboration. Typically, it's good for proof of concept, and all source code are shared in one workspace for your applications, which includes the back end, the front end, infrastructure as code, the DevOps or CI/CD configuration that you have, and it is ruled by a few commands only, which is very developer friendly. You just need to memorize, or not even memorize. You just need to think about 5 commands to deploy, which I will be showing to you in our code demo very soon. I just want to like share the concepts and basics for now. So Azure Developer CLI is built with boiler templates or blueprint template library that you can access using aka ms/awesome ACD. So this is open source for everybody to use. And as you can see, this template library has different like filters or support for different languages, including .NET, different Azure technologies. And even the templates are built by Microsoft, authored, of course. And there are also community authored templates, meaning that if you are a passionate developer who wants to build things with ACD and have some cool projects, you can actually contribute through this tool as well. As I said, it's open source, it's for the community, which is one of the things I like about it. So ACD or awesome ACD, as they call it, is ruled by one line, which is the ACD template list. So right now, as of date, it has a huge list of templates for different languages, including C# and different templates for, like, for example, a function app, or you want to build a WordPress app, or if you want to build a React or single page application app, as well as even containers kind of app. So how does a typical ACD project folder looks like? So depending on the type of template that you're using or you're going to start with, it has this typical format. Sometimes you do see this standard project for a web, for example, a web app. So you do see here, let me see if I can. So you do see here on the left side that there is a folder called ACDO and an Azure-Dev YAML file. This is where you configure your tasks for your Azure DevOps related pipelines for building or releasing your app. And then there's also the Azure folder. This is the configuration that you have for Azure. You set up your environment here, like dev, QA, staging, or production. As you can see, I have a one in the screenshot. You configure it on your configuration, and then there's a dev container. If you are deploying the app through dev container instead of Azure DevOps or GitHub, you can also set up or deploy it in a container and set up your Docker file, GitHub actions if you want. And then there's also a folder called infrastructure, which is default to most of the template. In infrastructure, this is like almost also the heart of the ACD template, because this is where you build your infrastructure or Azure resources to the cloud or to Azure to prepare your code, application code, to be deployed later on. So you have your infrastructure, and in a typical real project, it's the platform engineers or DevOps engineers that prepare this. That's one of the job that I do in my job. So we use Terraform, but in ACD, the default language for infrastructure as code is Bicep. But don't worry to those that are Terraform coders for infrastructure, because you can actually convert your ACD template as well to Terraform. There's a guide on that on Microsoft Learn. So infrastructure is, of course, for the infrastructure in Azure, and then the source code. That's what we care also as developers. So in this one, I like it in a way that usually in a typical mini project, like there's a separation sometimes when it comes, oh, you're a front end developer, you're good at front end, and then there's also, I'm a back end developer, and then there's one also, I'm a full stack developer, I can do all of that. And I categorize myself as like full stack slash I can also do cloud and infrastructure, since that's why I became a consultant. But I believe that ACD gives us like an opportunity to collaborate even internally as developer, removing the divisions. If I can do front end, I can do back end, because the source code folder here allows the team, regardless of whatever the developer is good at, they can collaborate both in coding the API, which is the back end part of this example web app, and then the web, which is for the UI. It can be a React, it can be a TypeScript, or a Blazor. So I do see collaboration opportunity here, and there's also a template folder for test. So the QA team, who is very interested to really go hands-on in the project, they can also collaborate in the same shared folder. So what is the typical ACD workflow? So there are 3 levels here. So usually you start with a new project. So when you start a new project, you select your ACD template from the awesome template list. You want to choose the template that's very close to possible real POC or use case that you want to build as much as possible. But it's not just using the template. You can actually build or use ACD with your existing application code, or even if you already have your own custom code that you want to build it from. But typically, you choose the template, you initialize it using the template name, you code it up, back end, front end, your DevOps pipeline, your Azure configuration, infrastructure as code. And then when you're ready to deploy it first time, you do ACD up. When you do that, it will ask for your where do you want to install it? I mean, where do you want to deploy it? So it will ask you some important information, such as what subscription you're going to deploy it to. If you have several subscription, the CLI will show you. I do have a few subscriptions. I have to really choose the right subscription. Otherwise, the wrong subscription account will be billed. Um, and then when it's done, then all the infrastructure, the code, front end, back end, it's all there. And then sometimes in a real code project, we need to make code changes because it's just a template, right? But sometimes you need to do some updates. That's what we do. So when you need to make code changes, you do that. You iterate by using the code ACD deploy. It will remember that you already have deployed the entire infrastructure in the initial deployment that you did. It will just apply the recent change that you had. For example, if you have made a change in an API, for example, or if you want to make changes to the infrastructure, like build another API management or another Azure app service into your infrastructure, you can also do that. It's optional. Not often we have to do that. You can use the command ACD provision. So in summary, this is like the flow definition of the flow. There are only like at least four, but there's more important one. But these are the top one: the ACD init to initialize your project, AZD up to package and provision your application to Azure, deploy for any iteration or code changes that you have, and then ACD provision if you want to make changes to the infrastructure using the bicep or infrastructure as code. And then one more thing, ACD down also exists. So if there's a delete for deleting all the data from a database, there's also decommissioning infra resources in Azure using ACD, which is very convenient in my perspective instead of doing it manually on the Azure portal. So it just takes a few minutes, and scenarios when you need to do ACD down, maybe you regret that you chose that template, you want to clean it up in just minutes using the command line. So that is good as well. So you might be wondering, how does it's an open source tool, Jonah, and it is something that I grabbed from GitHub. It's an open source. Anybody can use any template. But how do I make sure that my resources, the application that I'm building is going to be deployed to the right environment or right Azure account? So there's an authentication control with the ACD auth login. I mean, you don't need to type it in, but when you do ACD up, and then, for example, I use VS Code. And when you do that on the terminal on VS Code, it's gonna detect automatically, is this person or is this developer logged in? If not, you will be directed to do the authentication part. If you have authenticator, you have to do that, and then you can proceed with the work that you do, which only takes a few minutes. And when it comes to monitoring, it is actually possible to do monitoring with Azure Developer CLI. So sometimes we have to do debugging, monitoring. So it's integrated with the App Insights, not built in maybe inside the CLI because it's a terminal, of course, but it usually, the command that you see AZD monitor allows you to like see the live metrics, the logs if you want to. And then if you want to debug locally, either your front end, back end code, you need to do the debugging configuration in your VS Code or IDE. And then when you do the ACD up, instead of like deploying it, you do a debug, dash debug, which gives you the output. But if you are logging some test data that you want to see on a text file, you can also do that by setting up the file format or the string that you need to save your test data to. So ways to get started or develop with Azure Developer CLI, you can do it with GitHub code spaces. You can develop with Dev Container. The most stable one, I believe, is working locally using PowerShell or VS Code, and there's also a VS Code extension for that. So now that's a big, that's a very like good overview of Azure Developer CLI that I hope to demo a bit right now to show you some examples. So let me just
Yeah,
see.
before you jump in, I just wanted to bring up one of the questions that we had earlier. I know
Oh,
Cam,
I missed. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no worries. No,
Yes.
Cam already took care on the comments, but I think it's a good
Oh, okay.
question
Yes. Yeah. Let's do
about
that. Yes.
our like our ecosystem. So it's like, does .NET Aspire replace AZD now? And I know Cam took care, but not everyone is on YouTube, so I wanted to like bring up for us to talk about it here too.
Yes.
Is
I'm sorry. The question was about. Let me just see. I missed seeing it. The question was, is .NET Aspire gonna
Yeah, Donna,
replace?
if Donna Aspire replaces AZD, and so the answer is no, right? Like, oh,
No.
like
Yes.
Aspire works with AZD, and so
Yes.
it is the deployment tooling for Donna Aspire. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
and as
I have if I could add, thank you, Marga. I if I could add also, so exactly as you said, there's actually a template. I think it's pretty new. The Azure community is like like trying to try the .NET Aspire and build it with ACD, because ACD is very developer friendly. But I don't think it will replace it. We can think of ACD as a tool to build a lot of things or applications in Azure, and that includes the .NET Aspire, which probably will be more supported later on.
All right.
More questions?
There's one
No.
more question here.
Yeah, sure. Let's see.
it-
Let's grab it. Yes.
So, Jonah, you showed what a typical solution or project would look like. Are there unit tests that are added by default? And if so, which testing framework is being used? Is it XUnit or something else?
Oh, that's a great question, because I did let me go ahead. I did show this is my code example. I'm heading into my code example now, which is also the next phase. In this template, there is actually a test folder, and since this is what do you call that, a TypeScript app, there's like a playwright integration to it. But I think there's other test framework that are supported, especially for backend testing. For this template, it doesn't have it, but there should be. I haven't tried it myself since my focus is more development, but there should be if you look into the documentation or the guide.
That sounds good. Yeah. So we are using
Yes.
Playwright as a testing solution. It looks like for
Mhm.
the TypeScript code, but no
Yeah.
unit test framework specifically being used for .NET.
I do have not that I know of in my code examples or template that I've tried. So I will get back to the audience that asked it if he or she really wants to know. Just connect with me on LinkedIn then, or I can look it up.
That sounds good.
Yes.
I'd say let's move on to the next thing that we're going to show here.
Yes. No more questions. So yeah, I'm into code demo now. So I hope everyone can see this well. I tried to. So in my code example, I mean, there are a lot of templates available, but I like the .NET app example with SQL, and also the .NET example with the Azure Container Apps with Dapper, as a good way to illustrate that using Azure Developer CLI, you can build web applications through to an app service or even to containers in Azure. But I want to focus, since let's see how much time we have, but I want to focus on showing the template for Azure for the .NET SQL with SQL database app. So if you could see here, let's see. So what I did, I do have an Azure folder that has an environment called .NET Show. Oh, I'm showing my subscription ID here, but it's okay. There is no AZ Mast in VS Code yet. But anyway, what I was showing you is I created an environment, .NET Live Show Code Demo, as my Azure environment. And then I do have a template for the Azure GitHub Actions workflow. If I want to use the Azure DevOps, I can also configure it up here. And then what I want to show you is the infrastructure. So infrastructure folder has the main bicep. So main bicep file, which kind of like code all the infrastructure that is needed for my application. I need a resource group, which let me show you how the infrastructure for this should look like. So it is this should be .NET 8. It's not updated yet on the template, but it's like a web app as a front end, and then there's also an API for a to-do app. And then there's an API management behind it. There's an Azure SQL database and monitoring and security. So basically, the infrastructure folder, the infrastructure code on main.bicep is building this infrastructure as a default for the to-do app. And in here, we do have the API API for the backend. In here, in this example, it is the to do app. So it has some like code for like a list of to do item and some like database context and some list and some classes, you can call it. And the web has the source code for the front end as well. If you work a lot with TypeScript, so this is how the typical folder looks like for the layout, the models for the front end development. And then testing is using Playwright, as we have discussed. And what I did here, let me just see. I did actually deploy the app ahead of time because it takes about like at least 10 minutes, and I didn't want to kill or eat our time from the session, live session. So, but what I'm going to show you is a live demo. Let me just show you first how ACD uh, template list looks like here. Oh, I did zoom in my template, my font here. So you do see here that if you do the ACD app, ACD template list, you will be able to see the different like template that you can get started and initialize with. There's a .NET eShop, there's a function app, the service bus. You can build something with OpenAI as well with custom API and ROG. There are many templates coming in as well. But let's just say, let me just show you my code here. So I did deploy already ahead of time, but I'm going to show you when we need to make changes to the app, for example. So here is the resource group that I created. It actually takes the environment name that I set inside here for Azure, the Azure config. So I do have dev, the .NET live show code demo. And you might be wondering, how does it know that it's going to grab that one? So basically there is like a main parameters, that JSON, where you can configure your desired name. The template itself has like best practices when it comes to like naming conventions of Azure resources when you deploy it. So by default, the good thing is that it follows the well architected framework and how you should name your Azure resources. So see, it prefix, like for example, Azure API management, and then your desired name. So I can choose, if I don't want to take the default random characters that we usually get in any templates on a project, what we can do is we can set the parameter. For example, the key vault name here, I customized. I can start customizing it. So I don't want the key vault name to be Kiwi and random letters or numbers. I want it to be named something else as my project would be named to. So what I did is that I did have my configuration for this one. So here you will see my subscription ID, but it's okay. I did configure. Where did I configure it? I think somewhere here. Not that one. So let me just see. I had several projects I did here. Yeah, here it is. I was in the right place. So I did configure to customize the Kiwi name to ACD demo JCA. I also configured that one. So I can like configure all of my like abbreviations or naming conventions in this like main parameters that JSON if I want to customize it. And you can also build up your infrastructure. So right now you do have the creation of the database inside here, the API management, the app services, but you can also build on top of it if you want. So this is the app module. The name of the app service, it's in .NET Core 8 right now, but I believe anytime soon I can upgrade it to .NET 8 as well. The API policy, the database, I'm building a database inside it. I will also show a demo with the database soon. But the result of the ACD app is actually here. So I did deploy it. And how did you know that Jonah deployed this using ACD? So I'm gonna prove it to you. I was doing this during my my lunch break from work today, so it's still dated today. You see, 12:12. That's like my lunch break. So I did deploy this initially. It took about like more or less 10 minutes. You do actually see the duration, how long it takes for the Azure Monitor, the app service plan, and each of the services to take. Like, for example, the SQL Server, it took 3 minutes. The SQL database itself took 3 minutes. So here you do see the events. And here as well, you will see if the deployment from the ACD app, from your ACD project, failed, because it will show you here, not just on the VS Code, but also on the Azure portal where you're deploying the resources on the cloud. But let's go back to the resources that I have here. So I do have my API management API app for the backend. And if I go inside it here, you will see that it is already integrated with Swagger. So there's a backend application API that I can query with if I want. And then there's also the web app, which is the front end, you can call it. It's a to-do app. I customize it because it's a to-do app, a simple to-do app. But what I did is that I was playing around with it and customizing it because I really want to build this project into a real productive developer app. So here I can create a list, on .NET Live show task list. It's gonna create it, and here I want to watch Jonah's talk, and then learn ACD, learn .NET 9. It's coming, and then inside it I can work with it. Like I want to in progress, learn ACD in progress. And it's actually live. I mean, it's live here. I know it's live because I did also have a database inside this. So I have a tool that I use called Azure Data Studio to query my database. I already connected. This was built by ACD template. And the changes that I did is actually reflected because what I just entered right now is like registered in the database. And then if I want to, for example, make changes, let's see, let's just say I want to make changes to my web or header. Let's just say header. So I want to add like .NET, Microsoft, Azure, and ACD. And then on the API, I want to change the option to choose. Let me see. the item. I think that's enough. List. I think that's enough. I'll just change the the front end part. So you see, I don't want to add too much on the back end part, so it doesn't break since this is a live demo. So what I will do is that I will open the terminal. And then since I have many sub projects inside it, I want to make sure that I am working with the ACD in the right folder. So I'm going to go here, and then I did just change the name of the header or the app. So I'm going to do ACD deploy. And ACD should recognize that I made a minor change. I can choose to commit it to my source control later after I have deployed it, or whichever way you usually do your flow. So it's gonna do a rebuild on the process. I'm watching if there's a question, but I'll answer some questions later. So it did show here that there is one change in progress. It's still thinking. So I'll just wait. I hope it doesn't take long as when you do ACD up.
I think
Can
there
we
was
take
there
questions?
was yeah there was
Ah,
one question.
okay, let me answer that. Yes.
Yeah, so let's put it on. So the question is, do we need to keep all Azure apps set up like Key Vault ready before performing the AZD deploy, or post deploy when we can change the Key Vault and we'll take it? What's the recommendation?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Saroj. Thank you for reading. Yes, yeah, you can. You don't need to have a key vault. I mean, you can delete it if you know you're not going to use it. But if you know that in your use case or POC you're going to use key vault later, what you can do is keep the key vault as it is from the template, just like what I have here. And then once you're ready to set up your key vault, because when you do secrets management, you need to know the secrets that you're gonna store in there, like your connection strings and all the other external API secrets. You can configure it up later. So it's up to you. It's very flexible, and then you can also build your custom one if you need to. So I do hope that answered your question, Saroj. Okay.
I think there's actually another question hidden in there. Maybe
Okay. Let's see.
if you were let's say you've deployed your app with AZD, and then you modify one of the Azure resources. Let's say you go to the Azure portal and change something on the Key Vault. The next time you deploy your application with AZD, does that cause problems, or is AZD able to figure out that something changed in one of the Azure resources?
Oh, that's a good question, because that's a very good question, and it makes me think because I usually have this configuration mismatch or problem in my work. Like, we use Terraform, and when a developer or someone make changes to the Azure portal, and then we're doing new changes on the infrastructure as code, it detects. Um, I haven't tried it myself. It makes me want to try now. But as far as I know, in my experience in testing with this developer tool or CLI tool, it it does override. And what I encountered in terms of Key Vault is that when you do ACD down, like, I want to tear down, because I've been playing with this tool for a while, even today. If you do AC down, it will ask you, are you going to reuse the resources later on? And what it does, it will ask you yes or no. If you say yes, it will do reuse the name of the resources. But if you say no, and then you don't confirm that you want to purge the key vault somehow, it will actually fail. So you would need to do some magic of customizing the name instead of the default template. But uh, I will take a look into how ACD behaves when it comes to like overriding or this changes on the other side.
Thanks, Jonah.
Yes, all right. Do we have more questions?
I think that was all. And it seems your image froze. I don't know if it's just for me.
Oh, okay. My camera
Let me
froze.
see.
Okay. Is it still frozen? Okay.
But we can hear you well.
Oh, but my.
But you have at
Okay.
least it's a beautiful picture. You're smiling and all. So it's like,
All right. I wish I could like. Is there a way for me? Let me do. I think I know the trick.
and we have Frank here, one of our co-hosts. He's confirming that the changes done in the portal should be overwritten or like, but I thought you had a way to get the differences.
Yeah, yes. As far as I know, it operates. Thanks, Frank, for the additional comments there. As far as I know, it does override, but the question really interests me that I'm gonna get back to it, and next time I do the talk, I'm gonna include that on the presentation. But anyway, I'll continue now. If you don't have any more questions, so what I did is I just like made changes to the front end application. I can also make changes to the back end app applications if possible. I mean, if I want to on the API, if I want to build more like classes or objects and any database queries that I want to build with my API, I can also do that at the same like ACD deploy. But I'm only just testing right now, so I'll just like refresh my app here, and it should show that I did add a minute text in here. That's very minor change. So it's just like a UI change. But if I want to do like, for example, create a new list in the back end, like I want to do a state like instead of to do, in progress, and done, I want to like add a new list item like blocked or like cannot do. I can also do that on the back end part of this app. So that's this example of the ACD for web app, but I still have a few minutes time, so I'm gonna go ahead how the template looks like if you are deploying apps, microservices applications, .NET applications using Azure Container Apps and with Dapper integrated with it. So there's a template for that on ACD. So if you let me just go ahead. So this is the AC Dapper template. Let me just show the diagram. So in this another example, which tells us that you can also build containers and .NET apps with ACD. So here, the infrastructure is like microservice where, let's just say you have a web shop that has a .NET app hosted in a container called checkout, which is a backend service. And then there's also an order processor container app that processes the order using the Azure Service Bus. So Dapper, which is another good technology trending today when it comes to cloud native and cloud development, has this called sidecar. So it is very good, especially in handling applications that can get like too many or too complex when it comes to communication. So the Dapper like technology helps with that communication using PubSub. So without digging deep into the technical aspects of like like Azure Container Apps and Dapper, I just want to show you the illustration of the template, how it looks. So what it does, what the difference between the template for a .NET web app with SQL compared to the ACA or the container template with Dapper is that it has like a different format in a way that you have the infrastructure, of course, here where you describe all uh, the subscriber and publisher for your container app name, like order and checkout. You can build it up here. But there's also a folder that you can just like add or customize called order processor. So you build the service order processor, and inside it, it has a backend code. Program.cs has it. It has integration with Dapper inside, and then there's also an app called Checkout inside here, and this is where you code your checkout logic. And in this example, it is just like it's just like a while loop that like sends order from 1 to 20. And when you develop the this template for ACA, usually you develop it with Docker. When you do ACD app without the Docker tool installed or running on your computer, it will actually fail when you try to publish. So it needs to be tested locally, it's running. And then the deployed application looks like this on Azure. Wait, let me see. Is it got this? So the deployed application looks my mouse. So this is. So I did the ACD app, but before I could deploy it, I had to test it locally using my Docker desktop and make sure that the containers, both services, are communicating with each other. But just like the same way I do ACD app, ACD deploy for the changes of that, I do see all the resources that I have, and I can monitor the deployments and configure everything as well in here. Okay, I think that's the demo. I think we're almost running out of time as well. Let me just do a final touch on this one. So ways to develop. There's many, and I usually like working locally. But if I'm on the go, I would use GitHub code spaces. And I want to also share that I do have Copilot chat on my Visual Studio. So sometimes, if I aside from doing the command ACD help, I also use Copilot chat to ask questions about like how I can develop, what are the template or the commands for ACD, which is very useful as well when it comes to productivity. So we got some good questions, and I did try to answer most of them. And a few questions that were asked to me today, I'm really curious to try it out and check it out to observe, and hope I can share it more to the community. But you have so much to learn, just like Yoda said here. And what I would recommend you is to learn by doing and keep learning with ACD, build it with .NET and Azure. I did blog about this in a community like contribution, Azure Back to School. You can read it on my blog. It's on jonah.andersson.tech. But I recommend you to go through the learning path on Microsoft Learn and how you can build and deploy applications with ACD. And also, once you get to the level that you're confident in building with ACD, try out the .NET Aspire template as well, which is one of my to-do list to try out in the next month, since that's a pretty new technology and it's interesting. And while you're learning, learn to have fun, like my dog Lawrence. So I have a Labradoodle, and today is also an International Dogs Day. So I thought I would share that. Have fun when you're learning, and if you get stuck with your technology or your code, just have fun and stay cool. And any more questions, by the way, before we end?
We have one question, Jonah.
Okay.
So let me pop it up on the screen here for our viewers.
Yes.
I know you had VS Code open at one point, and you were showing in the File Explorer pane there was a configuration file you were using for Azure pipelines. Would you
Yes.
mind showing that again?
Yeah, sure. That would be, we have a few minutes. We're still in good time to show that. So, for each template has their like a default template for like CI/CD or the DevOps pipeline. But let me just go on inside how the pipelines. So for the Azure DevOps pipeline, it actually like a typical YAML file that you build up. So for this specific template for deploying a web app with SQL database, it has a task to install the CLI task. It's going to ask for your environment variables like subscription ID, and then it's going to deploy the application, of course, using the credentials that you provided and environment names that you shared on your configuration. The dev containers has this as well if you're deploying using dev container. So this is where like the template default one is, but you can build it up and configure it up if you want. The workflow for GitHub is simple like this. You just have a step to log into Azure. You have your credentials. You put in your client ID and secret ID and tenant for that, and then you also build it up as well. So, and then I want to highlight, also share before we end the show, that there's a special file also called Azure.yaml. And Azure.yaml describes everything that you're using. It tells you the metadata, what template it is, what workflow it is, the services that are being used. This is the web and this is the API. So it does give you this like blueprint of the entire shared workspace for both front and back end testing and infrastructure. So that's a good way to share it to a team member that's new, and then they just know where to look at the folder structure themselves. So I
All
hope
right.
that answers the question.
Yeah, I that was great. Thank you. All right. Well, we are coming up on time, just a few minutes left. So I guess it's time to wrap
Yes.
things up here. I want
Yeah.
to
Yes.
thank you, Jonah, for coming on and showing everyone this new AZD tool that many probably haven't seen yet.
Yes.
Yeah, hopefully folks learned something here. As a reminder, though, if there was anything here that piqued your interest with AZD or .NET Aspire, keep in mind we do have an event coming up on September 18th. Cam, you show the banner there. Please do check out this event. Look for notifications or announcements around this event, but mark the date on your calendar right now, September 18th. Hope to see you there, and you'll learn a lot more about this topic. Also, just as some housekeeping here, next week we'll be taking a break in observation of the Labor Day holiday here in the States. However, we will be coming back on September 16th when we'll be joined by our friend Scott Hanselman. You may have heard of him.
Yes.
He will be sharing all sorts of goodness with us around upgrading an app to .NET 8, using Playwright tests. We saw a little bit about Playwright today. Again, mark that on your calendar. Tune in. So that'll be a busy week. The 16th, we have Scott Hanselman, followed by the 18th, we have this .NET Aspire Day. I also
Yes.
want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in today. As a reminder, you can check out other shows like the one you saw today. We have recordings over at dot.net/live. I hope to see everyone again on September 16th. Thank you.
Thanks.